Hello again, everyone. So this is now our video number 3 on the series of OCD that we are exploring it together. So last time we were talking about the fact that it becomes a belief, that ritual that we've created that's superstitious for the fear of losing something that we loved at childhood or at any age, turned into repetitious of doing certain things, which we now call it OCD, and that turned into belief that that thing is really what we do. The crazy stuff that we do is actually the reason why things don't go any weird way and things are remaining as we like it to remain in our life and nothing bad happens, and creates that belief that therefore it becomes more difficult for us to deviate from that because it has now become a belief, just like we explained in the other 2 videos, but in a very detailed, elaborate way. The sequence of our mind moves, the movements of our mind, in turning some fear that starts from some age or some circumstance, a trauma of some kind, triggers a certain kind of a insecurity, and in search of that psychological security, we turn that fear of losing something or something not being the way we wanted into a certain kind of superstitious a sequence of doing certain weird things and behavior, including washing hands and turning off and on the switch and touching a rock before we leave, or cleaning this, cleaning that, using alcohol to clean that. I sat here, I have to clean it, now my clothes are contaminated, now I gotta change my clothes, and now my hands touch my clothes. All these things that we do, they eventually become a belief because of the repetitions and the long time that we've done it, and we became really good at it, and the synaptic neurons created a bridge between the 2 for these conditioning things that became a conditioning of our consciousness, and we then on an autopilot we do it without thinking, which is the time that the whole thing has become a belief, and no longer we know why we're doing it, we're just doing it. And then when we want to, somebody suggests that let's quit it and don't do it and see what happens, we can't do it. Why? Because we have now created a belief, and to us is sacrilege now. It is a sin not to do what we have turned it into a belief. Like the same thing as I mentioned, that the Egyptians had all those statues made in their basements and decorate it and turn it into God and give it godly powers. They themselves gave it godly powers. What they didn't have, gave it to something else, a statue, then they worshipped that and asked for harvest and good things from that, what they created with their own hands. And then they believed it's sacrilege to disrespect that, whatever it was that they made it with their own hands. And this is the process of what we have created for ourselves, some of us who had OCD or still having OCD, and we make it seem like as if it is a sin to now reverse what we conjured up and turned it into a religion, so to speak. Now, in this video, we want to talk about what are the other reasons why this should not be a belief. And does it qualify to be a belief? And I think not. So let's examine it. Well, listen, despite the fact that we have no evidence that this actually has any powers, these things, the crazy things that we do in order to keep us safe or keep our loved ones safe or combat the fear we have of losing something that we love, because there are many things that we love in this life, and with everything that we love in this life, there is a fear of losing that, what we love, which is the beginning of this whole OCD thing. And it hits us at different age. At younger age for different reasons, and older age different reasons, and when we compile on it, add up different reasons, logics that our mind has gone into groove of these weird thinking, and then believes his own thinking. Lo and behold, and not knows that thinking and thoughts are stupid, have no logic, no credibility. 99% of them. We keep thinking about the same thoughts. God knows how many thousands of every day of thoughts, and most of those are the same thoughts that we did yesterday. So we constantly are reinforcing the very thoughts that could, many of them, be the wrong thinking, wrong paths in life, but we keep thinking about the same thing over and over every day, and we're creating more and more bridges between synaptic neurons of that specific way of thinking. We condition our consciousness in a certain way that it's, to begin with, is wrong. But by repetitious, we make sure that that becomes our automatic default of way of thinking. And then we give it credibility. So, what are the other things that we could consider that could prove that what we have turned it to be a belief should not be? Well, simple. Do you remember when you were much younger? Before these crazy things happen. And I say crazy thing because they are crazy things. Let's face it. We do it not because there's any proof that we need to do it, not that there's any proof that it will actually help alleviate or counter the fear or magically protect what we want to protect. None of that is true, right? But it's in our own mind. We have created it. And that's why I call it crazy things, because they are. And we, all of us, to one level or the other, mild or not, go through it, through life. Sometimes we get out of it, sometimes we don't. And what we are doing here in these videos, I want to help you guys all out in a way of knowing that you can reverse this. You can reverse this. You can turn back your life to what it was before you ended up dealing with these sort of things out of fear of losing a certain circumstance, security, comfort, pleasure, or what is important to you. So let's understand. Do you remember when you were much younger, before this became your new habits or conditioning? When you were much younger, just before that, how was it? Were you doing any of this sort of stuff? Were you doing the washing 5 million times a day, your hands? Were you doing the cleaning the floor where you walked because you brought maybe some contamination from outside here, so you put your shoes in one corner and kind of put it aside as if it's diseased? It's created in our own mind. And then you walk with a certain home shoes, and then you think this touch that, and so on and so forth. Or you touch a rock before you go, or you turn the switch, a light switch, off and on 5 million times. Open the window and close it, or utter some word more than a few times just to think, oh, I gotta say it one more time because then it would be balanced. Oh, I shouldn't be 3, should be 4, or shouldn't be 4, it should be 5, or no, 6, it will be even. All these things, before all that happened, do you remember that? Were you doing any of these sort of things? No, you weren't, right? Did anything go wrong? Did you catch a disease because you didn't wash your hands 5 million times and you washed it once? Did you catch anything because your shoes you came in the house with the shoes on? I'm not recommending, but I'm saying even when you did anything happen? Did anyone died or fell or got damaged or harmed because you didn't turn the light switch on and off 50 times or 10 times? Did anything happen to you because you went to the gym and touched the weight and you thought, oh, everybody else touching is dirty? Did anything happen? No, did it? So if it didn't happen before, when you were doing all these things without these washings and rituals and all that, what makes you think that what you're doing right now is of any use, is responsible for bad things not happen to you. Why do you think, how could you think that things that you're doing now has anything to do with why things are going well for your life? That you're not getting sick, that nobody is damaged, nobody has died, or no accident has happened, and for no reason, and that you're protected, and your lifestyle, your job, and your, I don't know, sales quotas and everything else in life is good, money is good, life is good, everybody's healthy. What makes you think that doing these crazy stuff is having any responsibility for all the good things that are happening in your life now, when before you became so conditioned to do all these rituals and so on, and none of those bad things were happening either? Everything was fine then, and now you think it's fine because you're doing these weird things. And some of you say, well, okay, it's not about doing things for things not to happen to me, or I don't lose a loved one or not, or protect something. It's because I think it's some things are just contaminated, and I don't want to bring contamination to my home. Well, I say, listen, we are a biological entity, that we are designed and equipped with self-cleaning systems. And those self-cleaning systems are all kinds of helpful bacteria that is all over us. Skin, inside, outside. That's why there are soldiers. They're the ones who protect us from all these other bacteria that we are scared of. We do all these crazy things to avoid them. We already have those equipments and those soldiers, those protective layers in form of skin, in form of bacteria, in form of whatever else it is that we're designed, and we have it inside and out to counter all these things that you're afraid of, germs and contamination and all this so on. We are not a victim. We're strong Lord of creations, and we have all these equipment to combat all these different kinds of bacteria and sicknesses and dirts and contaminations and so on that we happen to call them. Inside of us, we eat food, we turn it into shit. And it's got so much bacteria that is unbelievable. But our intestines and everything has all these good bacteria that kills all those bad bacteria and destroys them and contains them and then shits it out. Any more clear than this can I tell you? Or are you only concerned about your thoughts about bacteria, and you're not focusing on the fact that you have loads of bacteria when you eat food, but you're equipped to take care of it, contain it, seal it, and dispose it without any harm to you. Yet suddenly, at a certain age, you have woke up and said, I actually know better than the Creator. I must wash my hands a few times. I must put my shoes there, and I have to wipe the seat of my car 10 times, and I have to... Why? Because these are what I can think that can protect me. Well, damn it, it's already been calculated by whatever has created us and has given us far superior technology inside and outside of our body to take care of all these contamination, bacteria, toxins and all that. Our liver gets rid of the toxins, our intestine does its job in a different way, and we have all these good soldiers and friendly bacteria there to help us strengthen and kill everything that is supposed to be destroyed, so we'll be healthy and strong. And over our skin we have millions and billions of little bacteria that is our side. We don't have to worry about all these other things that we think we got to wash our hands to get rid of it, use alcohol to clean it. You do that for when it's necessary. If you have a, I don't know, cut or something, the physicians and science have said, okay, you can just, disinfect it and then cover it, a Band-Aid, and then, if there anything happens, and you go to the doctor and they'll give you antibiotics or whatever it is that they give you, and you'll be fixed. But those are rare situations. But if it does, the medicine and medical professions are there to help us. But what happened that we forgot about the equipments that we already come with it when we're born? We have a live system that dynamically, constantly learns by itself about the bacteria that we are subjected to since childhood, and it learns and becomes stronger and become far more superior in defense mechanism as we grow. And suddenly at certain age you think, well, you know what, I've been sleeping all this time, all my life, but now I think I should have protection. Well, you've had that without your thinking or coming up with these crazy behavior and rituals, which we call it OCD now. It was all taken care of. You had no problem. Are you stronger now, or were you stronger when you were a kid? Is your immune system stronger when you were a kid, an infant, a kid, or when you are now? After all these experiences that your system has learned how to deal with even different bacteria that you never encountered when you were a child. Obviously, you're stronger now, right? You're bigger, stronger, more powerful, more resilient and all that, right? Then how come when you were a kid and you didn't do any of these crazy things, washing and separations of this and that, and quarantining this and quarantining that, and alcohol and wipe and contamination, wiping your seat and all that, when you were doing none of that shit when you were a child? Because you couldn't even think that there is such a thing necessary, or conjure up such a thing to make it look like as if it's necessary. You couldn't even think about this when you were a kid. So naturally you weren't doing any of these things that you do right now because you think it's necessary. But how come then when you were a kid nothing happened to you? Nothing. You were a child and you didn't do all these washing and quarantines and alcohol cleaning and wiping and contamination and this and that, so forth. And you didn't go over a brick on the street 5 times, or click the light switch up and down 50 million times, or touch a rock and so on and turn this way, or repeat some word 50 times to create a certain kind of a ritual or a remedy for some kind of a voodoo thing that you're worried about some magically bad thing could happen to you. None of that. You didn't do any of that. But you grew up, nothing happened to you, strong and playful and happy when you were a child. You went to school and all kinds of things happened, touched everything, didn't wash hands. I'm not saying don't wash hands when it's dirty, but what I'm saying, then you didn't even do any of that. And you were just taught, come home, wash your hands, and that's it. Sit down and eat. That's all one we need. And we were doing that just as it was necessary or not necessary when we were kids, just to its limits. Nothing more. We never did any of these crazy things when we were kids, did we? And everything was fine, wasn't it? So how come now that you're stronger, bigger, and more experienced and all that, and more wise and intelligent, you suddenly think, oh no, I have to do these things, otherwise I will get sick, or something bad will happen to me. None of these mentalities or rituals were being done when you were a kid. So what justifies to think that has become a belief in you actually is justified to be a belief? When you damn well know that this that is a belief of you, the stuff that you do, none of it was a worry of you when you were a kid, and you were much younger and not as strong as you are now, but you still didn't do it then and nothing happened. So why this thing suddenly needs to qualify to be a belief, as if it's true and accurate? With all the might and pride that we have, and intelligence and education that we have at this age, we suddenly discover that this, what we do, has legitimacy, and it must become a belief. Meanwhile, back in the ranch, when I was a kid and I was a little infant and had none of these fears in my head, I didn't think I need to do any of these, and I didn't, and nothing happened to me. The key word is none of this came to my head. But when I got older, I became concerned about things that comes to my head. So it's a thought, an idea that makes me think that this could be true. But Mehran has a book called Transient Thoughts and Me on his site, mindthatseekstruth.com, that explains what transient thoughts are and why we believe them and what to do with them. So obviously, thoughts are nonsense. Thoughts are suggestions. Thoughts are stupid. They have no credibility. We give it credibility out of fear of losing something that gives us psychological security, comfort, pleasure. For everything that is pleasurable, we have a fear of losing it. Everything that gives us psychological security and we like it as a comfort, we have a fear of losing it. This fear of losing it is what stems and is the root of our OCD, which it starts with a thought. We believe the thought instead of understanding the thought. Most of it is simply the exhaust of a mechanical process, material process of our brain. Like any machine that has an exhaust, we eat something and we have feces as it is exhaust, turning the food into energy, and the stuff that is not necessary is the stuff that got to be disposed of. The brain also, because it functions and it comes up with activities, thoughts, and so on, it has a material process functioning. It's a mechanical machine, therefore it also has exhaust, refuse. It has to get rid of it. And most of these thoughts are the refuse of brain. Yet we think, because it appeared, it must have credibility. Not just anything that appears has legitimacy. It appears because it appears to be get rid of. Like the food that we eat, it creates poo. But just because the poo is there doesn't mean it's useful. We gotta get rid of. It's there to be gotten rid of. Same thing. Thoughts on these sort of things, rituals, fears, and so on, that turns into OCD, they're not there for us to tell us, it's a credible thing, so you gotta do something about it, you gotta believe it. No, it just happens to be the refuse of brain, thinking, processes that it does, 70,000 thoughts a day. There must be some kind of a bloody refuse. And some of these thoughts that turns into these kind of crazy habits and rituals and beliefs that we do are the refuse. We just gotta get rid of them. Pay no attention to it. That's why none of these things are qualified to be considered a belief and be treated as if it's sacred. That's where it gets to. We start thinking these beliefs are sacred and we can't even fathom, we can't even ponder on, we can't even consider them, that we should actually stop doing these things because they have become conditionings of our psyche. And whatever becomes conditioning, it becomes part of us. And what becomes part of us is hard to deny. It's it's me. I am the one who should clean, then I am balanced. No! You have adopted something that was conditioning, but to begin with was a wrong conditioning. But no matter right or wrong, if you do something constantly and long enough, you become good at it. Like the piano playing, like practices. Hence, practice makes perfect. That's where it comes from, but it had scientific background. So we gotta understand that just because something we've done constantly, continuously, it has become a conditioning, that doesn't mean that that conditioning should not be allowed to have credibility. And we gotta reverse it by understanding all these things. So I think for now, it's time for you to have a cup of tea and relax and ponder on what I said, and we'll continue in the next episode of OCD and how to understand it and how to get rid of it. I'll talk to you soon.